Zola Blood is a four-piece band from London who recently released their debut album last year. Following their minor success from the first release Meridian EP, they successfully crowdfunded Infinite Games on Pledge Music, whose limited edition of 50 CD I managed to get my hands on. So, how did I find Infinite Games? Well, to start, let's talk about what an infinite game is. I'm not sure if it's a coincidence, but there is a book called Finite and Infinite Games, A Vision of Life as Play and Possibility by James P. Cars. To explain the concept of infinite games as told by the book, it will be easier to explain what a finite game is. It's basically your everyday games like sports and video games, games that have set rules and if you break them, you aren't really playing the game anymore. Infinite games, however, have more creative freedom and you play with the rules and boundaries, so I suppose it's sort of an allusion to life or creative work. I'm not quite sure if I have that right or if it's even relevant, but I find it interesting anyway. So let's talk about the music itself. In general, the entire album focuses on escapism. All 10 tracks of the song focuses on a certain idea or reality, but approaches it in an ambiguous or flighty fashion without conclusion. I'll talk about the tracks individually later, and you'll see what I mean, but I think what really sells this is the lead singer's voice. I'm no musical expert, but the orchestral, somewhat distant sounding vocals paints the image of a desperate person slowly drifting away to space. The minimalistic instrumentals also add to this. Alright, let's go through the album track by track. I'll talk about my personal interpretations. You can have your own interpretations too. I'll link the band's Bandcamp in the description below where you can find the lyrics. I'll also link the live videos you are seeing right now, and I highly recommend watching the Stables performance, which is highly enthralling. Anywho, let's begin. The title track plays first and it alludes to the book I talked about with its first two lines, stray and play infinitely, no end and no beginning. It could be a coincidence, but there really isn't any interview or anything with the band or the singers or whatever that divulges information, so please bear with me. That aside, the song talks about victories, titles, skins, and masks, and letting these go in favor of moving on and playing the game. In my opinion, I suppose this track is talking about not getting hung out on your little victories, because life just moves on and there is a weight on your back. In the chorus, the person appears to be trying to get his life straight and change his state of mind. I don't know if I've quite gotten that right. The second track, Heartbeat, is easier. It's simply escaping a relationship simply by ditching and forgetting everything that has happened, instead of facing a reality that the problems will just stack higher and higher and trying to fix it. The character decides that the best solution is just tie it off and go back to square one. Then we get The Only Thing, with obvious allusions to death and dying. The first verse obviously references Charon, the ferryman who carries us the dead across the river Styx in Greek mythology, crossing the boundary between life and death. The chorus also speaks about the character wondering what happens in this limbo between life and death. The second verse highlights the escapism theme as no one is really trying to figure it out and just living life as is, because really it's not a mystery that can be solved easily, if at all. Good Love, the next track, is a favorite of many and I do quite like it. It's very industrial and heavy, especially the breakdown near the end, and the soundscape is pretty grey. I think it sets the mood of the entire album very well. Anyway, the track talks about another sour relationship, sort of like Heartbeat. In this story, however, the relationship is a wasteland. The verses allude to this with lyrics like Temptress of Silence, Morning Call Unanswered, Sent West, Senseless, and Way Out, and Ransom the Day Off. It basically means that both parties aren't communicating and the relationship is basically dead. The character laments that he would take anything to save their place for a little longer, perhaps hoping that their relationship could be saved, although of course this is wishful thinking. Then we get Islands. It's basically about daydreaming and fantasizing and just letting things happen until a new day arrives. The chorus talks about letting the weather pass, and later the song concludes with "The sun gets in your eyes." I take it that again the character is escaping reality and just waiting out the turbulent waves and riptides until the sun breaks through. The island metaphor too talks about secluding oneself from others, and just being on your own and avoiding interaction and all the problems that come with it. Maybe. Then we get nothing. It's very dance-like with a heavy beat in the background, and it gets weird in the end. I always thought that the synth sounded like a table being dragged across the floor for a little bit. But that's the beauty of electronic music, taking weird sounds and making them sound nice by putting other weird sounds with them. But anyway, nothing is about being indifferent. The character talks about another person, presumably a woman, whose words spark the fire and is the character's nightmare and dream. The woman is the typical slayer of hearts as alluded by the chorus which repeats, with the lines being short and curt. It means the action appears as if it were done many times before, without a thought or care. The woman will simply take a name, burn in the heart, i.e. get a man then ditch him, and the end of the chorus sheds light on the woman's indifference to the impact of her action. The character wonders if she wonders about her actions, and even if she does, she either thinks it's okay for her to do what she does, or that nothing will happen as a result of it, that it's absolutely okay, that there's no negative repercussions. I'm hesitant to talk about the bridge and what it means, but I suppose it talks about the ease with which the woman gets started. It's not easy to decode the lyrics, but I think you kind of get the idea of what this track is. Mouse and Mouse is a rather short track lyrically, with more emphasis on the instrumentals. So I've been racking my head thinking about the lyrics, or what little there is, and I get this image of the character calling up his crush to ask her out and then being subsequently rejected. But I'm not quite sure if that's right. I do know, however, that the chorus alludes, how many times have I used that word already? To being worn down by the everyday battles of life. Let me know if you have anything to say about this track. Check out the Bandcamp link below again to look at the lyrics. However, I must say that the track has very good layering of beats, and that's something I've noticed about the track in general. A beat or riff is generally introduced at the start, and then it is amped up by another layer later on in the track, which makes it more intense, and kind of sums up the entire track. The ending instrumentals in this track is one of my favorites, for example, as it takes the beginning intro and riff and sort of adds in more and more sort of sparkling synths and make it all really complete. Then we finally hit play out. Waiting for something to play out. It might be an extension of some of the other songs about relationships, but in this relationship, nothing has happened and the character is basically doing nothing and waiting for something to automatically happen. One of the lines in the chorus strikes me. Hope that the answer goes with the ask. By putting the answer before the ask, it's sort of talking about hoping the human interest would say yes to a date or whatever before I even ask her out. This is another form of fantasizing, something I feel that a lot of people have done. Observing from a distance, wanting to know someone, and just hoping that the person will just come over and reciprocate to your non-existent prompts. I'll let it bloom and then let it die also alludes to opportunities for the person to approach surfacing, but the person just lets it slide. The repeated line, I'll be your left side if you'll be my right, is sort of the question he wants to ask but doesn't. In the end, he's just waiting for the entire event to play out on its own. Silhouette is a very real song of anxiety and depression and all that good stuff. It's a sad, whiny and draggy song about waiting for nothing, which might be a callback to play out in all the missed opportunities. It's a very literal and clear song. The slow melody clearly shows the mood and feeling of the character. I mean, just read the chorus. Don't know what I'm waiting for? Everything I've known is lost. And last but not least, Get Light. This is a simple song about two people parting ways and wanting to make it as painless as possible. The first verse points out that the character is just waiting for the slow dance of their relationship to burn over, while the chorus immediately talks about the two saying their so longs and letting time pull them apart. By not keeping grudges or burdens, no weight to keep it heavy, they'll be able to break cleanly apart. The line that follows that line, or keep us in a fight, also talks about this. Often, couples fight when they bear grudges, with all the ex this, ex that stories you hear. but this couple just keeps it light and breaks up with no friction. However, the second verse talks about how deeply ingrained their relationship is. So you can see the escapism once again. Instead of trying to fix the relationship and going back to the way they once were, they just decide to end it off painlessly and escape off. Really, really sad and pathetic. So that's Infinite Games, a sad collection of songs about avoiding problems and fantasizing and wishful thinking. It's painfully relatable at times, aggravatingly silly at other times, but really it's a good representation of being human. Thank you guys so much for watching and see you guys next time.